What is going on, everybody? bobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haver. We are going to be talking through the trade deadline slate. Yesterday felt like the trade deadline slate, but it was more like we didn't know who was going to play until the late games, and then you get Sabonis coming in, and that sort of took away. Unfortunately, I took a lot of my Fox and Mitchell exposure out, so that probably was one thing I did wrong last night. Did some other things wrong, but still, like, had a couple lineups that just missed cashing in the 888. It's just always like, it's been a frustrating week, but I can't complain after a great week last week. But it's really it's tough, man, when you're not getting there, and it's usually it's rotation differences. It's you don't know who's playing till late. I do think still backloading was more the way to go last night with with exactly what I said. One Toronto guy, one or two from the one from the Bulls and two from Charlotte, and then I just didn't get the right ones. That's pretty much it. How'd you do?
Yeah, so I didn't do that well in the NBA, but I want to talk to you. I wanted to have a couple of comments on this. First of all, as we were doing the, I could see how some of you guys might have been frustrated, like in the live stream last night. Okay, so you show up for the live stream. It's like 6 o'clock, an hour, and you kind of like want answers, right? Because in that last hour, that's what people like to do. They want to finalize their lineups, and some of you are looking at this thing all day. You're working, and you come back, and you just want to get some ideas of what to do on the slate. And as the stream was going on, and even as I thought about it towards the end, I'm like, these people must be like so mad. I mean, we're just not giving them anything, but the thing is that unfortunately, and on nights like last night, and a lot of them in the NBA, there's just not enough information to put you guys on the right path at that time of the day. There's just so much stuff that was going to be decided after lock that I thought that we did the best we could, being the advice to just not do much. I mean, we could have very well just spent like 2 hours talking about what great plays Charlotte's were, and break down the Cleveland game and all this stuff. But the reality is that the NBA in general is a sport which is really hard. It requires a lot of commitment. And sometimes the answers are just not there at 6:30, sometimes not even until 7. And now we're kind of in my world. When we start talking about like managing money and hedge fund stuff, sometimes the best advice is the advice to not do anything, and the advice to stay away, and the advice to wait. And I thought that although it's not the greatest content in the world from an entertainment perspective, I really thought we did the right thing by everybody. By not being evasive, by just keep on saying, listen, I don't know what to tell you. You're asking me, Evan Mobley versus Anthony Davis or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. There's just no answer at 6:30 last night. There's usually answers around 6:30, right. But at 6:30 last night, there was just nothing. So yeah. I know it's sometimes frustrating, but the NBA is a frustrating sport. And from a content delivery thing, all we can do is keep talking process. And last night, the process was just to delay. And sometimes the process is going to be, deep diving into the 7 p.m. game. It's just every slate is just different.
Well, to that point, I would like to point out that on almost every winning lineup on almost every kind of tournament last night had a minimum of 5 or 6 players from the 10 p.m. games. Yeah. There was no less than that on any lineup. And that's what I was stressing. And just to say, I agree that it can be frustrating. And I'm sorry, we can't do more, but it's literally, I don't think anybody can. And by the way, I listened to other shows and everything before and after our show, and they were saying the same thing. It wasn't any different. And I was in Discord answering everybody's question. Eventually, it takes me like a little, to run through everything once we get the lineups. And then we had the Sabonis, and then everybody thinks Josh Hart's going to play for a minute, and then he's not going to play. And it's just, this is what happens during these trade deadlines. And we didn't know if Bagley was going to start. Bagley, by the way, just this moment got traded to the Pistons. So that's why Bagley didn't start, which made Metu still in play, even though he wasn't as good of a play because they now had Sabonis. There was just a lot of stuff to process. And that's what I can promise I can answer in Discord with the given time. But it is tricky. And that's this time of year, especially, it'll be a lot easier after today, but it's not going to be easy still. Anyway.
And I also promise, and this is going to be famous last words, for those of you who just started playing DFS in the last year or so, baseball's gonna be much easier. It's just gonna be easier. It's easier to play. It's easier to deliver content. It's just easier.
I totally agree with you. And, you know, the one thing I wish I really would have done, and I avoided him about 100 different times and played Vanderbilt, who was fine instead. But I literally could have, I had so many opportunities with my late swaps to just end up at 5,400 and play Hassan Whiteside, and I didn't do it. And that's my big regret from the night. But I was very happy with my other process. Oh, that, and I didn't play nearly enough Horton Tucker after talking him up. I did write that he was a good play in Discord, that I thought he was, and Rody converted over to him, some other people, and some decent lineups. But anyway, we're going to do the best we can. And let's start it off with our first look today, which again could very well change. We do have trades in the making going on as we speak. There's a potentially going to be maybe the biggest trade of the season, although I don't think it's going to affect the players playing tonight. It could affect a couple of them. But I'm hearing that there's a lot of rumors.
What are you hearing? What do you got?
Harden for it has to be Harden for Simmons. And I guess the big sticking point from the rumors that I've heard from the people who seem to know best is that it'd be Harden for Simmons and Curry basically, and a pick. And I actually think that trade makes quite a bit of sense for both teams, with Harden expressing his interest to get out of Brooklyn. But again, it's kind of weird that just waiting on the Ben Simmons thing, well, we all thought it was crazy and they could have had this and they're wasting an Embiid year. They may end up getting just the guy they wanted, and they may end up doing it with, and Ben Simmons' trade value may not have actually dropped at all. That's the craziest thing. But anyway, well, I'll do a whole trade deadline sum up tomorrow, maybe the next day, or just some. I like to go through my personal, interest in this, that I really think it's fascinating. So I'll do that another time, but we'll get into tonight's slate first.
We got to get moving. I keep
forgetting. Let's do it.
Okay. So I actually really don't like this slate at all from a points perspective. So that
means a sheet slate.
That's right. I should say it another way. I really think it's going to be extremely low scoring slate, provided the whole slate doesn't blow up and whatever. So I think that raw points are going to matter. I don't see all that much tremendous value yet. So it's going to be a really weird slate to analyze. It's going to be all kind of done on a relative basis. Mm-hmm. So I got the Memphis side of this game.
Do you mind pulling up your screen?
Oh yeah. So on the Memphis side of this game, I don't have a lot. I think Ja is perfectly reasonable, at 10-3 in this spot. Again, I think you're going to need points somewhere, and I think he's one of the people that can deliver it to you. So that's the one thing. I don't have really any more value, anything else on Memphis I even want. Detroit, maybe again, Jeremy Grant, maybe. Kelly Olynyk, maybe. That's really kind of what I got, except for the fact that this just seems like a misprojection. I'm seeing like Cade Cunningham might project for 35 fantasy points. I just, I don't know. If he's playing and healthy, I'm always going to pick it up going over on that one. And I'm also showing him like less than 5% as a result of that projection. So I don't know, maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Just take some underprojected guy, or maybe he's not underprojected. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but play like Morant and Cade Cunningham and just do something like that. And this goes against what we've been saying about waiting for later games, obviously. But that's where I am right now in this game.
Well, this is going to be so we already have a trade to Detroit with Bagley just got traded here. We don't know who's in the trade from Detroit. It's a three-way trade. It's all this stuff. So there's probably going to be some business to do here if you want to. My personal take is every time I see Memphis play an inferior team, they don't just beat them, they beat the hell out of them. And they do it every time. They're loaded, they're deep. They play like, I don't think back-to-backs even matter for these guys at this point. Basically, this is all to say that Desmond Bane is probably my favorite play on the Memphis side. I don't mind taking a shot on Jaren Jackson Jr. or Ja, but I do like Bane the best. And depending on how it shakes out, I'm sort of interested in potentially looking at a little Kelly Olynyk, depending on like Jeremy Grant could be gone by the end of the day.
Man.
That's very possible. He's one of the biggest trade deadline rumors, but more just that Olynyk is a guy who, when they're struggling, which they're going to be at some point in this game, he can get them going and he can hit a few threes and things like that. And when he comes in and has a good game, he puts up like 40 fantasy points. So I think Olynyk is an interesting large field play. Actually, I think he's an interesting regular field play. Just he'd be a large field play once we get the value that I'm sure we're going to get by the time the slate locks, because even the guys who aren't traded, what happens is they end up sitting because they're in the trade rumors, and then it's hard for them to go out there and play. So just keep that in mind too. And you don't really want to play guys like Jeremy Grant is a guy I don't think I'd want to play, or you could go the other way with it and say that, maybe now is the time to play him after he's not being traded through the trade deadline. So it's going to be a tough one to figure out, but we will be there at 6, and I can speak to that stuff a little bit more at 6. Also, you know what else sucks, Sheets, about these slates? The games not having the multiple games at 7 o'clock, and then you have that. So it just gives you every extra reason to fade the first thing. You know what I mean? They creep when they creep along, it's tough. Brooklyn and Washington, what do you think about this? Because I don't know what to do here. I really don't. I don't think I want to play Kyrie at 10-4. I'm open to Blake Griffin. I'm open to Patty Mills. I'm open to Cam Thomas. I have a sour taste from the other game, but this is a much better situation because they should be able to stay in the game. I'm probably going to play some Brooklyn guys. I think if I had to pick right now, really sadly saying this, I think Patty Mills would be my number 1. I think that Cam Thomas, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Bembry, and James Johnson are all in the role for number 2. I don't know who else it's going to be, and I want to see their starting lineup, because if Bruce Brown starts again in a close game, I would take a shot on Bruce Brown at 3,700. I just don't know who it's going to be. And on the other side, you have will Rui ever be sort of like unleashed again? Not that he's so great when he is. He did get to play 26 minutes. I think he's an interesting value. I think KCP is valuable enough. And Thomas Bryant, we could take that shot. But the main plays for me are going to be Kuzma and Dinwiddie. And I think they're both underpriced. And I think they're both awesome tournament plays.
Yeah, on the Brooklyn side, I agree with what you said, except for the fact that I'll get to Kyrie if I have to, just because of my thesis again that you're going to need points somewhere.
Yep.
But Mills and Bembry would be my 2, whatever value plays, and then on Washington, yeah, I kind of missed the boat on the Kuzma. He always seems to outdo his projection. That's why I end up missing the boat on him.
Yeah.
He looks a little bit better today though, so maybe I'll take one shot at him before just in time for him to bust, I guess. So I do like him a little bit, like you said, and the Thomas Bryant / Rui / Harrell thing. I think one of them will probably have a good game. Somebody always does against Brooklyn, right? So
right.
I will. Thomas Bryant at 3,300 certainly seems to stand out like right now, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think this is by the end of the day could be the most stackable game on the slate. Washington's trying to make moves. Brooklyn's trying to make moves. We might have a small rotation in a game that teams don't play very good defense. And you also have I just want to go back to say that I have no problem with the Dinwiddie duds. You can look at everybody in Washington, all their numbers are going to look terrible because they played literally the 2 worst matchup, especially for point guards, but for everybody. And they got stomped in both of them. Was against Miami and against Phoenix. So you didn't get the games, but I think that's going to keep people off of Dinwiddie and Kuzma. And I am going to go right back to it in a great matchup. And I think we can get I think between Kuzma and Dinwiddie, I think those guys could be looking at 40 plus. And then you could fill out a stack with whether it's Bryant or whoever we want to choose from the other side by the time we see who's actually playing for Brooklyn. I really like this game environment with the prices of Kuzma and Dinwiddie. And then you can include some Rui and Bryant and Harrell. That would be my suggestion. But I really think this is one we're going to revisit at 6 because I think it's going to be the trade deadline will affect that one big time. Miami at New Orleans, what you got?
I pass. I really didn't get to anything from this game.
Yeah, I get it. I think I would be inclined to take a shot on Jimmy Butler.
That would be the only guy. I was just holding that one back. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that I will be playing, and as will everybody else or a lot of other people, Kyle Lowry on Fanduel at 5,400.
Yeah.
Again, they've been in blowouts lately, and he was just coming back. So every game that he plays, I'm going to have a little more interest. And if you're going to take a large field tournament play, I think that Hero is your large field play. I'm really amazed by how they're using Jackson Hayes. Now, this is not a good matchup, but it's probably worth noting that he's been over 30 fantasy points 3 of his last 4. He's been as high as 42 in that period of time. Obviously, it's a bad matchup, but he's going to be on the court. They're really playing him more minutes than we've ever seen from Jackson Hayes in that double center approach, which has kind of killed a little bit of Joval. And it's a bad matchup for Joval, but it's kind of funny to see him at 7,700 and probably going to be 0.5% owned. Same thing with Ingram. So I would just hold everybody on New Orleans as good large field tournament plays. but I don't see, and you got McCollum coming in the mix now, who's projected to play 30 minutes. Why these guys are projected after playing 38 minutes a few nights ago for a different team to only play 30 minutes, I don't know. But I do think McCollum has upside on those minutes. I just don't think we're going to need to do anything here. Everybody's going to be a large field play only, so I'll skip it. Toronto, Houston, what do you got?
Yeah, so Toronto's on the back-to-back. The only thing that I think that does is it makes the game closer, which brings some of these guys into play. So Sengun for Houston, it looks great to be a good point per dollar play, as he always does. And if you play, the angle, whatever, that it could be a close game. Toronto, I've seen them play fast, so maybe you can play some of these other guys in Houston. And then nobody's going to project. It looks like nobody's projecting well, literally, like the whole slate. So Christian Wood could be a poorly projected guy. That's not bad. It could be Kevin Porter Jr. He can do something. And then the Toronto guys. I mean, I'd like to think that they're not going to run them 40 minutes on back-to-backs, but maybe they will. I mean, I don't know. So right back Van Vliet, right back Siakam, and I don't know. Again, these are the types of plays I'm looking for today. Just not worried too much about them being good plays, but just anything to get me some points.
Yeah, I think you're going to not have to worry so much by the end of the day. We just got another
Probably.
trade, but it's insignificant trade. I actually really like this game. The thing that scares me is that even in a back-to-back, Toronto really does put the hammer down. And what was interesting is last night on the front end of the back-to-back, up by 22 or whatever in the fourth quarter, their players are all on the court with 3 minutes to go in the game. All their starters, they will leave those guys out there, and Nick Nurse will play them on back-to-backs as long as the game is remotely close. The problem is this game staying remotely close. I always have concerns with anybody against Toronto, and then Houston on the other side. But Houston has been a little bit feistier lately. If you do think there may be some blowout risk here, I think Chris Boucher makes for a really weird off the board large field tournament play. I think Kevin Porter Jr. and Sengun as a run back to Fred Van Vliet and or Siakam, I think is a really good way to go. I think we kind of have to acknowledge that Siakam or Van Vliet basically put up 50 plus every night, one of them, and sometimes both. That we kind of look at Siakam has been over 50 in 4 straight games, and this is the best matchup he's faced. It's going to be hard for me not to have some interest in at least one of those guys, if not both. I think all of the other ones are fringe plays, except for I think you could include Gary Trent as a strong play against a weak defense, because he'll just chuck it, and I love anybody who just does that. But Kevin Porter Jr. and Sengun are my favorite run backs. I have a bias against Christian Wood because I think he's a bad basketball player who's actually like a reasonable fantasy producer. But I would hope that we start seeing more and more of the Sengun, Kevin Porter Jr. situation, and I'm going to bank a little bit on that. It's a bad matchup for Kevin Porter Jr., but this guy has a real ceiling, and he was a good play the other day at 5,600. No one played him. He was, he put up 40 fantasy points, but he's got even higher ceilings than that. We've seen him with like 70s in the past. And Toronto on a back-to-back, maybe he can get them a little bit tired. I don't know. And I also like Jalen Green as a long shot play. He's a guy who no one's going to play really, and he's 5K with a 40 plus upside. Basically, anytime he makes half of his shots. So I like that.
Yep.
Clippers in Dallas. What do you got?
I got Luka Doncic.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, what is he got? 15,000 today?
74,000.
Yeah, he's 74,000. He's probably going to go for 1x in that case. I think he's a good play. I don't really like anything else on Dallas right now. On the Clippers, Powell's. I'd like to play Powell, but he's too much. Zubac is going to be a good price as always. I mean, 3,900 for him. I like that. And just not a lot, really.
Yeah, it's just going to matter about what they decide to do with Zubac. Like, I've made so much money on this specific matchup. It was my playoff matchup. I was crushing every time in. Remember a couple of years ago, and last year too. And then it was the I won one of the big one. I won a 50K one night, and I won the 30K for second place the other night. Last year when these teams played. But they were shorthanded, and the Clippers' minutes distribution projection is hilarious, with one player projected to play 30 minutes. It's really hard to play guys when that's the case. The one thing that I like, though, is that I think you can get a really low owned Reggie Jackson with a little bit of upside because he's got a little bit of that swagger thing where he'll try to go back at Luka because he has the irrational confidence to think he's the best player on the court at times. I mean, he's done it for years. And I sort of like the idea of maybe getting a low owned Reggie Jackson at 5,900. He's my favorite play on the Clippers side. I am open to I could see Zubac or Batum. They're cheap prices, but I just don't think I want to do it. It just feels like you're just throwing a dart, and maybe I'll throw that dart, but I don't know. It doesn't feel quite right. I love Luka. I don't think this is a particularly exceptional matchup for Luka, but it doesn't matter. He's probably pretty easily the best spend on the slate. I think his early projections, he's going to be owned much higher than that. I like Kleba. Kleba has become a much better fantasy point per minute producer than he used to be. And he's shown a real ceiling. I like him, and the Clippers don't entirely play big. So the Dwight Powell minutes could be cut a little bit. You could see less minutes out of, you could see a lot more Kleba minutes than the 25 he's being projected for. I think you could see him easily playing 30 plus. And I don't think I want to play Finney Smith today, but I figured I'd just mention him because he finally did, have a decent-ish game, although they raised his price and he's probably out of play a little bit today. But I like Luka and Kleba is my favorite plays in the game.
All right, so here we get some. Okay, so here we have something you can play. Not that it's a lock or anything like that, but you have a really significant bit of news here in the Knicks Warriors game. RJ Barrett being out. Okay, so he takes a lot of shots. So with him out, I think we can play Alec Burks at 4,800. That's something you do, and he's going to be probably pretty popular, but something you can do at least. And Randall. He'll again, we had this discussion the other day, that does XYZ being out really help him that much? I think it does, I think with whenever you have just that many shots out, it's just going to go to somebody who likes to shoot, and Randall does like to shoot. So I think Randall gets a bump. I think Alec Burks is a really good play. And, I might be a glutton for punishment. If they somehow start Kemba Walker again, I might try that at 3,900. I mean, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I definitely think that the Knicks, for some reason, might end up being, the non-trade related value. Let's put it that way. If nothing else really big happens, I think these guys can do something quickly 3,400. Grimes at 3K. I think one of them is going to do something. So I'll take a look at the Knicks. That'll be my first. That's the first decent play I've actually found on the slate.
I'm totally in agreement with you, but I mean, we have three huge questionables tonight. Mitch Robinson, Quentin Grimes, and Nerlens Noel. Now, if all three of those guys were to sit, it would open up even more possibilities for some funny nonsense. You might be talking about Cam Reddish by the end of the day if all those guys sit. Taj Gibson on this, if the slate does lack value, as opposed to the 10 gamer where I didn't want to play him, although he ended up doing well, but not nearly as well as the other minimum cost guys. I would consider him if there's not other value. But I like the Randall idea. I really like I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think I will rotate Burks quickly and Kemba. I think Burks is the most obvious, but I think you'll get low ownership still on Kemba, and quickly you'll be somewhere in between. I think Kemba is going to be 5% owned. I think quickly is going to be depends on Grimes really, but I think quickly is going to be 20-something% owned. And I think, Burks could end up being as high as 40% owned. Those are all interesting to me. I also, I'll get to my plays later, but my initial thought is the Knicks cover these 9 points here. That's just my first take. And on the Golden State side, it's really hard to justify anything except for, hey, we could always get Steph going nuts, especially on a night where he struggled. The whole team got absolutely throttled. I think Steph is a really interesting large field play at no ownership. I think maybe you save it for Fanduel, but it does always feel bad to play him on Fanduel because he's the 3-point bonus. I mean, the guy can make 8 or 9 of them, you know what I mean? And adds a lot of extra points, as well as potential double stuff, which is less likely for him. But I do think Steph is my initial look at a favorite run back here with, and I think you could include Looney because of the Knicks size. They don't really have I don't know. I don't want to play Looney, but I just am throwing it out there. Early on, he looks like a reasonable play. And then you've got the real. This is why. Hey, do we play Luka or do we play? are you serious? We're gonna have nobody playing Giannis in the final.
Nah, you're gonna have people playing him. You're gonna have people playing Giannis and Booker. That's what I'm gonna do.
That was my first build of the day. Was Giannis. Love it. But
I mean, that could be Giannis and Chris Paul if you want to know the truth. But I'll do this. I mean, like I said, you want points, and this is the first game I've come to when you have guys on both sides of the game who could put up points. So I'll wait. I'll wait till 10 o'clock. I'll wait till 10 o'clock. I'll play some Golden State Knicks value. I'll play some 1v1 Milwaukee Phoenix NBA Finals preview type shit. I'll take a shot. Why not?
How about NBA Finals rematch?
Right.
Remember the last time these teams played, I think Giannis put up 94 fantasy points.
That'll be plenty on this slate.
And he's projected for 55. I mean, what is happening? Am I missing something? Giannis is a different type of being. He's got he's like a real grown man's Westbrook in his mentality. The difference is he's got the skill set and the tools now to back himself up more. He is going to. He does it every single time. I can't promise. I hate making like guaranteed things, but like Giannis brings it in these matchups. And remember when they played Brooklyn to open the year, and Brooklyn was the favorite, and they had lost their whatever. Or sorry, they were supposed to, they were like underdogs and everything. Giannis just took that offensively. He said it in an interview. How are they favored in the game against us? And then he goes out there and they smash them. This is what this Milwaukee team does. I think these might be. You could argue that these are the two best teams, or the teams most likely to meet in the finals. And I think Giannis takes all of these things like a little extra personally. And the truth is, if we get 36 minutes out of Giannis, he's always getting there. If we get 30 minutes out of him, he still probably gets there. And I think he's actually a better play than Luka tonight, just at my first glance. But I think you can try, by the end of the day, God willing, we'll have some value. And I think you try to play those guys. And I love the Booker run back. What scares me is that Booker is going to be really popular, and so will Chris Paul. And it is a fast pace, good pace for these guys' game. Can I interest you in potentially playing a little DeAndre Ayton or Jay Crowder would be my pivots off of the chalky Suns, because I do really want to play Giannis. And I don't know if I want to play 35% on Booker, because I love Booker in this matchup, but all it takes is like a slightly cold shooting night for him. And even an average shooting night, or if he's not, he doesn't need to get there. It's not like he does a million things on the court.
I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, I don't, I'll get to it in a second. I have no problem playing a big against Milwaukee. I think Ayton makes sense. The question I have, and this is, I always get this one wrong. I just wanted to bring it up. Is this one of those things where we're not supposed to play Booker against Jrue Holiday defense, or is that something? Or
I think Holiday will be. See, we saw we have a pretty good sample of this actually from the finals, and what we saw was that early on in the series when they had Holiday on Booker, that Chris Paul took over those games and was sort of controlling them. They fell down 2-0. They moved him over to guard Paul. And then all of a sudden, even if Booker was scoring, the whole offense wasn't running the same. So my guess is, unless they want to save something for the finals, that you're going to see a lot of Holiday between Booker and Paul. I think they're going to rotate that. Okay. And they've got another good defender out there too. But the thing is, you're going to be playing so fast because of the way Milwaukee plays. Yeah. That it's just going to open up fantasy production. And probably should mention DiVincenzo was traded, and Pat Connaughton may be in play here, which doesn't feel great. But again, if you're looking for value, 3,500, I think that's reasonable. Where did he go, DiVincenzo? I believe he went to New Orleans. It just happened while we were on air, so I have to double check. But may have been New Orleans. They really held on. He was traded along. Oh no, he traded to the Kings. The Kings with Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson were traded to the Kings. I didn't even know Josh Jackson was. Oh, it's a four-way deal. Oh my God. Yeah, that's part of the four-way deal. So Jackson's gone from Detroit. Yeah. So the Bucks got Serge Ibaka. And like picks and stuff. Yeah. Which I guess the thing is, it doesn't really open up much for the Clippers, unfortunately. They just wanted picks, and they didn't need DiVincenzo that much. So okay, that's fine. But what's funny is they really, he was a big part of what they were talking about. But I think they've kind of gotten to like this Grayson Allen Connaughton rotation enough to where they don't mind it, and they still play Wesley Matthews a bunch of minutes, or they will play Wesley Matthews a bunch of minutes if they need to. not you. Don't play Wesley Matthews. I'm just throwing out there that could happen. But I have a pretty tight list of guys who I think are priorities tonight, and some for reasons of low ownership, some for reasons because they're really good plays. Like I said, Giannis, my favorite spend up with Luka right there. They're really good, both of them. I think Kuzma and Dinwiddie will be staples for me. I think Fred VanVleet and Siakam, Fred VanVleet or Siakam, and then I will mix in the other Toronto guys. I have Reggie Jackson, Maxi Kleba, one of Burks, Kemba, or Quickly, Randall, Booker, Crowder, or Ayton. I have listed on my list so far. And then you can, there's going to be guys like Rui who pop up. There's going to be other guys who pop up for value. Those guys I'd like to wait a little longer to make my decisions on because I think other value opens up as the day goes on. And we're getting more and more news. So it's going to be a hectic day for NBA stuff. And guys, I appreciate what Sheet said at the beginning. We really appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. But I really think that we'll try to do the best we can. But part of the best we can may sometimes be just telling you, hey, wait, and I'll answer your questions in as much as I can, and we'll dictate. I mean, I was ranking players at the end, and it's frustrating and it's flustering. But we at least got through it in Discord. I'm not saying that I was right about everything, but I can give you a much clearer thing when you give me the time to actually know who's playing. And tonight we only have to worry about it with the late 2 games. So I don't think those. I mean, Milwaukee, Phoenix, the Knicks, and Golden State. The Knicks are the only one that is really in trade talks at all. So I don't really feel like we have as much to worry about tonight. Anyway. All right. Well, good luck to everybody. Sheets, is there anything else before we get out of here?
Nope.
Good luck to everybody, and we'll see you at 6. And let's try and do a little bit better. This time to pick things back up again.